USSR, September 1981. A period of local government corruption and civil disruption has led to a rebellion in the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. Loyalist regiments have been wiped out and air defenses dismantled. NATO forces from the south have taken up a peacekeeping mission. There are now hostile forces on our doorstep, separated only by a chain of mountains. I am a fighter pilot in the Frontal Aviation Regiment stationed at Nalchik Air Base, north of the border with the Georgian SSR. I will fly the legendary MiG-21, leading the fight against the aggressors to the south. Prior to beginning air operations south into hostile territory, we will conduct probing tests of enemy air defense posture. We will observe their early warning radar coverage, their reaction times, and what they react with. Fly to waypoints 3 and 4 along the border, but under no circumstances cross the border or engage enemy forces. Welcome aboard my MiG-21 for the first mission of the Over the Hump campaign. Now, this is a bit of a redoing of that campaign by Kaba, who has converted it from the original Flaming Cliffs MiG-29 campaign over to the MiG-21 and moved it back to a more Cold War setting. And the first mission here is just to probe the enemy's defenses and not engage in any actual combat, so it may not be the most exciting to watch, but who knows. I'm going to jump straight into the startup procedure so we can get out here. So, we will put our inverters and battery heat on. Get the battery and generator, fire extinguisher, radio and flight recorder on. And after that, we'll get the fuel pumps on. Turn the so-called APU, but it's really just the starter motor for the engine. Unlock the throttle, hit the starter. Engine spooling up, make sure that throttle comes back to idle. We'll get our gyros and AC generator on. All the circuit breakers on the right-hand panel here will go on, except for the gun camera, which I'll leave off because it blocks the gun sight to a degree. And radar to standby, IFF and RWR on, probe heat and emergency probe heat on. We will align our HSI here. That appears to be good. I'll switch the gun sight on. Shut the canopy. I try to do mostly a right-to-left workflow that's slightly modified from the official procedures for this aircraft. Have everything set up for weapons, air-to-air, and radar missile. I think I'll leave it in that mode. And lock the canopy. Gear handle fixator off, just so I don't forget to do it later. Countermeasures cover uncovered, again, so I don't forget to do it later. Flap to take off, and now what is our RSBN station? That's going to be important for this mission because we need to be very careful with our navigation along the border. So, we are taking off from Nalchik. The station is number 8. Okay. There's the ident. I will now turn that off so we don't get the incessant beeping for the entire flight. And that should be about everything set up. We should be ready to taxi. Now, what is the ATC frequency? Channel 14, and then AWACS is on 0. Okay, I thought I heard them talk before, so let's figure out which runway we're going to here. I already started up, but we will request forgiveness rather than permission. Yeah. Taxi. Nothing? Oh. Runway 6. Okay, so we're going to be making a left turn here. I think we always use runway 6 at Nalchik because of the nature of the field and the obstacles off one end of it. In practice, that's what it gives you anyway. I should mention, the only other thing that's really occurring to me, the only concession to realism I'll be making here is that I'm using neutral dot icons, just the little black ones. Because I just can't see very well in DCS, so, yeah, it's gonna be happening. Just gonna have to live with it. Coming up on the hold short point, I will ask takeoff clearance. And then wait patiently and just stop and hold short if we don't hear back right away. Although sometimes DCS ATC just won't talk to you until you're lined up, so you might have to do that. In fact, I probably will, just for expediency's sake. I'll ask one more time. Oh, there we go. Okay. Clear for takeoff and ready. Flight's taxiing up behind me, so they should be on the stick right away as well. Now unable to clear for takeoff. I might just ignore you if you don't mind. There we go. Make up your mind. Right. Nose gears locked. Punch it. This should make for a fairly interesting home base because the runway in Nelchik isn't very long, and the MiG-21, it certainly likes to have a long runway. So 300, ease her up. Positive rate of climb, gear up. Alright, all three are up. Return the gear handle to the neutral position. And coming up through 500, flaps up. I'll keep her in burner until we hit about 600. And that should do, coming back. So, for the navigation in this mission, what we're going to do is fly the 180 radial outbound. Oh, and now this is explaining it for me. I'm also going to switch over to AWACS frequency. We're going to fly the 180 radial outbound on the RSBN from Nalchik for a distance of 60 kilometers, at which point we will turn right and track on 293 to a point on the 245 radial at 74 kilometers. If that doesn't make sense just now, hopefully it will progress. So I will come through 180 and put it and do a 45-degree intercept of the 180 radial outbound. I don't expect to get an accurate thing from the needles until we're a little bit further away, but in principle that should do it. And I will probably climb to just below the cloud layer. I'm not going too far, so I'm not terribly worried about fuel economy, so I don't mind not flying as high as I absolutely conceivably would for a long-range combat mission, because you can get some decent range out of the MiG-21 if you manage it properly, but should be no need to take it right to the absolute margins today. Alright, we're just about coming up on 60 kilometers from Nalchik, and I'm going to start my turn early just out of an abundance of caution so that we definitely don't cross into enemy airspace. In fact, we're running up on that pretty quickly, so I'm going to make it a pretty hard turn. We're going to come right and make sure we're tracking 293. In fact, I might even be a little bit generous and go for more like 300, just because the flight plan as it is takes us so close that there isn't really a margin for error, so I might make it 300. Just so that we do have that margin. And once we're level, I'm just going to quickly hit the autopilot and put in the new radial. So from Nalchik, we want to be turning in when we cross over the 245 radial. And then we'll just track straight in on that radial back to base. And basically, the demarcation line is right here, and the now rogue Georgian SSR is everything we see that way. And given the number of contacts that AWACS and my wingman have been calling out, they've got airplanes up doing the same thing we are. So we're just going to be very careful and do nothing to provoke war until war is declared. Alright. Getting pretty close to that 245 radial, at which point we can just turn in and head back to base. Lots of radar and lots of radar spikes from aircraft and possibly some search radars, although whether they could see over the mountains is possibly a little bit questionable. I believe that is Mount Elbrus over there, the highest peak in Europe, which stretches pretty much up to the cloud layer here. And it's just about to hit that radial. And I'll just start my turn now, because we should cross it in just a few seconds here. And there we go. It should be a relatively short trip back, only 60 kilometers, and we will just track that radial straight on inbound back to base. So, 40 clicks out, I've punched up the frequency for Nalchik again. Let's get in contact and see which runway they give us. Runway 24, yeah, I thought so. Okay, I'll just put that in here then. Okie dokie. And at this point I should be able to spot the field visually and we can just head in that way, and I'll probably just join the circuit straight on in the left downwind there. Wingman is still humming merrily along. Our centerline tank is empty, but I don't see any reason to drop it in a non-combat scenario. In real life, in peacetime, MiG-21s could only drop their tanks in designated areas, and then they were supposedly, or so the story goes, rounded up and used as hot water tanks for showers in people's Dutches, but who knows? But in any case, we're not going to drop it here, because, you know, those things are expensive. Alright, nicely established on the left downwind for runway 24. I'm going to send my wingman back to base, just so that he makes his own approach and doesn't do anything stupid trying to land in formation with me. So, navigation, turn to base. I'm going way too fast. One thing at a time. It's supposed to be aviate, navigate, communicate, but kind of got communicating on the brain there, but no big deal. I just need to come back through 500 so we can get the gear out. So I'll just bring the power right on back, and once we dirty up the airplane with the gear and flaps, we're going to have to push it way back up because the MiG-21 is super draggy on approach. Very high angle of attack with the little delta wings and lots of drag. So 500, gears coming down. Three green, good grief. With 3 loud clunks, we always like to hear it. And that's 45 degrees. I'm going to bring the flaps to the takeoff setting. We're going to maintain 450 until we're rolling out on final. Well, the turn from base to final is statistically one of the most dangerous periods of any given flight, so we want to make sure we have some extra speed so we don't stall and go into the ground. So 450, I meant what I said. Ooh, not the burner though. Slightly excessive. And we can just roll it straight through onto final. I made it a relatively small circuit by MiG-21 standards. And just keep that power on. And I'm at full mill power, and it's still not quite giving me 450. It is a 45-degree bank, though, to be fair. So anyway, rolling out. Flap set to landing. We'll fly the approach at 400. Hit the stabilization mode for the stabilization mode for the SAU, I think it's called. Anyway. And that's our landing clearance. Just made a little adjustment to track IR so I can see over the nose a little better. So imagine I just put my seat up, I guess. 400. I'll let it come back through about 350 as we come over the fence. Aim to touch down at 300 to 320. Should be fine. We're nicely trimmed. It's a matter of getting the airplane on the runway and getting it slowed down because it's a short runway. The power's coming back, but we don't chop the throttle in MiG-21. And down we are. Parachute's out, air brake's out. I'll gently start getting on the brakes, but we shouldn't need too much. And I think we can make this taxiway here. I'll unlock the nose gear. Oh, he's sneaking up on me a little bit. Although, that's an angled taxiway. Do we have another one? Not really very soon, and that takes us straight back to the ramp. Oh well. It's a fighter. It doesn't matter if we cut the corner a little bit. We're not going to bury the outboard wheels of our 747. Anyway. Alright, we're down and clear. I'll drop the parachute, bring flaps up, air brakes in, and I'll taxi to the ramp, and I'll do the full shutdown in this mission. Did the full startup in this one as well. I won't necessarily do that for every mission, although if there's anyone who really wants to see it, do sound off in the comments, and I will include it. But normally it just seems a little bit dull to me. So yeah, SAU can now go off. We don't need that stabilization mode. And we'll put the gear handle fixator on, which it actually already was. So. Now, where did we park? Let me turn the RWR volume down, because that's just ever so slightly irritating. I think I was at this spot here, and my wingman was on the other side. So I'll see if I can be very clever with the brakes and align it exactly where it was. But no guarantees. Actually, are there two spots there? You know what? We'll put it one spot over just in case. Except I don't have enough room to turn around. Okay, I'm just gonna goon this up a little bit, I think. I'll park it slightly forward to where the other ones are, and the ground crew can just push it back. Like that. Oh, and I'm gonna overshoot it too. Maybe not, actually. Not an exact science using the pneumatic brake. Anyway, that's us stopped, so we'll jump into the shutdown. Flaps are up, speed brakes are off. Landing and taxi light is off. I never even used that. Conceivably, I potentially should have, since it is a peacetime operation. Oh well. Throttle's at idle. All our circuit breakers on the right-hand panel can go off, with the exception of the radio and the flight recorder. For long-time viewers who saw the Brezhnev incident campaign, I will probably still make a few mistakes in the procedure of this shutdown, but it's not actually that important to get the sequence exactly right for most items. Anyway, throttle can then go off, and we can open up the lid and let in a cool breeze. And at that point, our fuel pumps and AC generator can go off. I think these gyros should have gone off a little while ago. Oops! Nav lights are already off. Inverters and battery heat can go off, and the battery and DC generator can go off. And these definitely should have gone off before. Oh well, we'll shut the cover. Certain items that just don't really matter very much on the order of once the engine shut down. that is our wingman has landed, so everyone has made it back all right. I think our statistics should be a non-issue. Results 50. I'll see how that shook out. I might have not actually quite hit the trigger zone because I stayed slightly north of the track along the border. We'll see, but I'm going to call that a successful probe of the enemy defenses in any case, and I think I'll call that an end to the mission as well, so I hope it has been at least vaguely enjoyable, even if we didn't see any combat. I'm sure that will be coming, and the next mission will be coming along fairly soon, so I will be back with that at some point. Toodles.